All right, good morning, everyone. This is going to be a special one. I got the Deacon, Alex Deacon of Deacon Hoover Real Estate. He is kind of what I call him is the Yoda of the Pittsburgh real estate market. So, morning, Alex.
Morning.
Yeah,
Good to talk to you, buddy.
yeah, so unfortunately, those of you who may have been tuning in to see Omar had to back out last minute. He is walking through an inspection he had to do, so he apologizes, but we'll get him on again. But Alex, maybe for some of my audience who may not know who you are, maybe a quick little backstory of you and your real estate journey, I guess.
Absolutely. So I started in real estate I'm 58. I started in 1992. I bought my first, I guess you could call it a house hack, right? It didn't have a name back then. It was a 3 unit building. My wife and I rented. We had a baby who was one, and my wife thought I was crazy because I wanted to buy a 3 unit before we bought a house. So we bought the 3 unit under the pretense we were supposed to live there, which we didn't. I was able to buy it FHA. So at that time, you could get into a house with 3% down, which you still can now, 4 units or less. So anyway, we bought that place. Then we bought our own house. Then I bought a 6 unit on a land contract where the seller was willing to hold a mortgage. It was pretty cool. It was actually a very good deal. Then I bought a 4 unit at another seller held a mortgage. They're hard to find today. Today the market's different. It's very competitive. These creative deals aren't relevant anymore because they just aren't. They're very difficult to find. Ones that make sense. You can find them, but usually you're buying them for too much money, and the terms are just heavily weighted to the seller. So, but anyway, back to my story. So then I thought, well, why don't I get my real estate license since I'm buying this real estate? So I got my real estate license. At the time, I was an auto mechanic. Got my license, started selling real estate. Eventually worked 2 jobs, and then eventually just morphed into real estate only. Kept buying properties, started a management company in 2002. We manage 900 units now in the Pittsburgh area, and I own the brokerage where we sell real estate for clients, and I have a pretty large portfolio now, and this is what I do every day. So
Yeah, I
that's
love it. So anyone that wants to follow him more, I did put his YouTube channel, his Instagram page, and his Facebook for Deacon Hoover. So go reach out to him. The one thing, like we did connect a few years ago, and the one thing that I really think I related with your story was the beginning of your journey of how you said you were losing X amount of money per month in a sense, right? You made a lot of mistakes. You stayed in the business, you stayed in the journey, and now you are, like I said, I call you the Yoda of the Pittsburgh real estate market as far as information, knowledge,
Mhm.
helping everyone kind of improve on their portfolio, right? So how was the beginning journey for like the struggle, I guess, in a
It
sense?
was very stressful. So yeah, I had my daughter she was one. Then we bought a 3 unit, and then what happened was you could you could buy real estate pretty quickly back then, and interest rates were low, and it was easy to get money, which I think it's pretty easy right now, but it was easier back then, and you could really get in yourself into a dangerous situation because you can buy quickly. They were lending money to anybody. I didn't have a lot of experience. And next thing you know, I was up to about like year 2000. I just built a brand new house, and I was up to maybe 50 or 60 units, and I was losing $4,000 a month. And back then, $4,000 a month might as well have been $1 million a month. So stressed out. I had to sell some of the really good properties that I had equity in just so I could keep the piece of crap properties that I had no equity in because I couldn't sell the crap properties. I was leveraged. So I sell those. I needed money. I needed cash. So I had to sell the good ones, unfortunately, and keep the crappy ones. And eventually I sold the crappy ones and I replaced all that portfolio, most of it. I still have some I still own today since 1993. I own some still. But yeah, it was very stressful. So the one thing I always tell, and I think I told you this, Mark, initially, dip your toe in the water, start slow. You don't know the market. You think you know, but you don't. It's it's taken me a long time to learn what I know, and I'm still learning. So take it slow and then build from there. You don't want to get into a hole that's so deep that you end up having to file bankruptcy and lose sleep, and you don't want that.
Yeah, I like that how you talk about how you have to sell the good properties in a sense right now. I think that's what how people have a hard time understanding, right? So they're trying to get rid of the properties that may not be successful, and they're trying to hold on to the good properties, but at the same time, sometimes you have to sell a quality asset to keep afloat for a while, right?
It depends where you are financially at the time. I needed cash so I could make my mortgage payment, car payment, food on the table. Today, I would never sell a good asset. No, I can't say that. I've sold. I'm selling a 3 unit right now to Michael, and it's actually a pretty decent deal. I was struggling whether I should sell it or not, but I'm trying to also shrink my portfolio so it's all closer to home. So where I am and where an investor is in their career, like age wise, like you're 58 or you're 28, that's a big difference because your exit strategy changes. Where you are financially, when I was, you know, 25 years ago, I wasn't as financially liquid and strong as I am now. So my whole outlook, my whole strategy, my whole business plan has morphed and changed because my finances are different, my experiences is different. Do you understand? Does that make sense?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
So yeah, that's why then I had to sell good properties because I needed cash. I needed cash to live. Today, I don't need cash to live, so I can hold on to assets and sell them at the right time, or sell them when I'm trying to I'm going to do now is try to shrink my portfolio into one central location, and try to keep it tight and close to home so they're easy to manage.
It's funny, a lot of the people that we follow to is, and they're the successful, the ending part of their kind of real estate journey. They've all gone through those phases like you're talking about. They've had these struggles. They kind of navigated to the best of their ability, and then once they hit that end phase, they're trying to consolidate, simplify their portfolio. But I want to say morning to some people that are tuning in. We got a lot of people from the One Rental at a Time and school community tuning in. So we got Invest to Wealth. Jason, I won't try to say your last name. We got Flavio from Grandview, Washington. JLD Systems. Haven't seen you here before, so thanks for tuning in. Please subscribe and like. We got Harrison. Harrison is also connected with Alex Deacon, also Harrison Miller, but I believe it's Harrison's birthday today. So morning, Trade Better 99, all nighter hider. And we got some of Alex Deacon's employees, I guess, or maybe people he's mentored. We got Jeremy Taggart and Liam here, and Dave jumped in some of these calls and also the Zoom calls, and they are a wealth of knowledge, and they both owe you. They speak very highly of you and on how you've helped them with their
Well,
journey also.
and thank all of them too, because Liam and Jeremy they knock it out of the park. They work with a lot. They sell a lot more property. They have their finger on the pulse right now of the rental market. They sell a ton of investment properties. They've helped a lot of clients. Where I'm just right now at this point in my career, I work with a few buyers, a few sellers. I work with all of my management clients, which I said we manage 900 units, and I'm really just trying to grow my management company and help the agents who work for me and help the clients who rely on me for consulting and good quality information. The challenge today is you have access to all the information you're ever going to want on the internet, which is awesome. But so the challenge is, what is that? What of that information is any good? And that is really the problem. Sifting and sorting through the quality information you can rely on and make really good financial decisions on. That's the difficult part, and that's what I enjoy doing, is supplying really good information about this market specific. I don't know anything about Hawaii or Cleveland or New York or Montana. I know Pittsburgh, and that's all I know, and that's my expertise. So that's where I try to help people, and I can be an asset to them.
Absolutely. Yeah, you've been a wealth of knowledge, and you've been super helpful to a lot of people that I have been sending to you. Like you talked about Mikey, and you are working on finalizing this triplex deal, and Mikey meets a lot of his criteria. So it's a great deal, and you've been a great resource. Even the property management side, Mikey has gone through different property management companies, and he's working with you also now. So that's been super helpful. But we do have a question from Harrison. He is oh, the chat just moved. Where did it go? He is asking Alex, did you think about roommates for the larger house?
Roommates, I've never done, I guess you call that like a boarding house. I would not be a good resource for that. I think it can be quite lucrative, but it's a management nightmare, and there's potentially some liability there. So you probably have to look a little closer into that and find someone who's very successful at doing it. But me personally, no. The only thing closest thing we get to that is we manage probably a half a dozen properties that for owners that are student rentals. So those are very similar. So student rentals is a completely different management style too, because you're dealing with basically teenagers and their parents, and it is a management intensive business when you're dealing with students and their parents. So yeah, I'm sorry, I'm not much help on that question.
Let's see. Oh, also, just kind of off topic. Jen has messaged me, and she wants me to tell everyone to give Kenny Wong in our community a shout out, a happy birthday, because Jen is in California, but she had to go on a business trip to Texas, and she forgot to tell her husband happy birthday. So she wants everyone to give Kenny a shout out and tell him happy birthday. Because yeah. So Flavio is here. He is in Grandview, Washington. So he's in a kind of feels like he's getting priced out of his market. It's hard to find deals. But he says, how do you see Pittsburgh in 10 years?
Is that to me?
Yes.
How do I see Pittsburgh in 10 years? I see Pittsburgh, over the past, since in the 1970s. So, for example, the Pittsburgh real estate has on average gone up, appreciated 3.5% ish. Okay. Year by year, some years it goes up 10 or 15, some years it goes down 3, some years it stagnates, but on average it's 3.5%. So it's different than a lot of different areas like probably Hawaii, California, Boston, New York, where you can't even buy anything in San Francisco, in Boston, in New York, unless you're a multimillionaire. And even if you do find something, it's not going to really give you a good rate of return. So Pittsburgh is a very stable market. I see it continuing to be a very stable market. There's always been a buzz about, oh, Google's here and Amazon's here and this is here and that's there. And it's never really taken off here. So when I buy something here, and this is the only place I buy, I always look at the current numbers. I don't look at projected. I don't look at the icing on the cake. If it comes, that's great, because now your ROI is going to go way up. But just base everything on current numbers and appreciation of 3.5%. If the numbers make sense and they work in that box, then go ahead and buy it. Now, if the values go way up, then you've gotten lucky and you've done a good thing.
I think the other question a lot of the community has, and I hear it a lot in our Zoom calls and when there's some new investor jumping in, is kind of how would you, and I think Liam touched on it great yesterday. He was on the call with us, but how do you describe like the Pittsburgh area, I guess? Because a lot of people are like, it's a bunch of boroughs put together. Like how would you describe Pittsburgh itself?
Pittsburgh is a great community. It's a very small community. I mean, the Allegheny County, I believe, I don't want to search it online now, but I'm pretty sure Allegheny County only has 1.1 million people. And that's relatively small. And Pittsburgh is within that area. So it's a small community. It's not very big. It's a friendly community. Traffic here is compared to other areas is almost non-existent, because I see that people come here from like Boston and Chicago and they're like, oh my God, you call this traffic? This isn't traffic. So I think it's just it comes, you know, it used to be steel mills here, so it was a blue collar town. It's not a blue collar town anymore. It's more tech driven, if anything. But a lot of hospitals here, and I just don't see. The other thing I forgot to mention when we talked about Pittsburgh in 10 years, the population has not grown here. So if you Google, you'll see the population in Pittsburgh and Allegheny County in general is pretty much stagnant. I mean, it's gone up slightly, and I don't see that increasing. And you have to have population increase in order for things to expand and prices to go up, like Austin, Texas, and Houston, and some of these areas that are just exploding. You could probably become very rich in some of those areas by speculating. There's not as much speculating, in my opinion, here in Pittsburgh. At least there hasn't been in 30 years I've been in the business.
Now, Liam has a question for you. He says, how do you know when you're strong enough financial footing to step on the gas pedal and scale up? Is it purely based on enough cash in the bank for reserves?
That's a fantastic question. That's going to depend. One of the important parts of this equation has nothing to do with real estate. It has to do with your appetite for stress. It's nothing to do with money. So understand, every time you step on the gas pedal, there's a price to pay. And you just have to be willing to you have to be built for it. Like, I don't know if I was built for it. I built this me because I put myself through a lot of stress and a lot of financial burden and this and that. Jeremy, on the other hand, who works with Liam, I think he did it the right way. He's a little smarter than me. I have to learn through by doing it and failing. So I try to explain to investors, you could do it like I did it, and it's just do it and figure it out. There's a lot of stress that comes with that and a lot of downside, but that's better than doing nothing at all. The worst thing you can do is nothing. So what's a good time to ramp it up, and when do you know? I can't give you an answer because everybody's different, but I would always look at things mentally, cerebral, and when I buy an investment, I look at it 3 ways: the upside, the downside, and then a real shot, the reality, like somewhere in the center. If I can handle the downside, which is, let's say I go to investment and I know, worst case scenario, I'm wrong on my rehab numbers, I'm wrong on what the rents will be, I'm wrong on what all the projected potential expenses are going to be over the next 10 years, and I lose $400 a month on this duplex. Worst case scenario, can I live with that? Can I financially absorb that? And if the answer is yes, 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 then I'm buying it. So if you look at everything through with your brain and not your emotion, which I tend to fight there because I'm very emotional and I like to succeed, and I'm driven, but sometimes being driven can get you into trouble. So you have to step back and evaluate. So the long answer to that question.
No, I think that's a great point. Like, so it also comes back to, I think we always talk about is knowing yourself, right? You have to understand, some people need more reserves to feel comfortable.
True,
Some
that's a good
are,
point.
yeah. So I think it's definitely understanding yourself, but then it's also, like you always keep touching on, like if you're going to invest in Pittsburgh or any, out of state or any market, actually, get around people that have been doing it or whatnot, that can kind of guide you along the way and help you navigate it. So like I said, you've been a great resource, and Jeremy, Liam, they're also great resources. Even Omar, who unfortunately had to do an inspection today, so he couldn't hop on. But Jeremy does have a question for you now. He says, what are some things Alex would do differently if he could go back to the beginning, knowing what he knows now? I think he's calling you old also.
Thanks, Jeremy. Be the first time. No, I like to say my answer is I don't ever have any regrets, and I wouldn't go back. And honestly, I think that is my answer, because I'm going to give you two answers, but I think that's my answer because I wouldn't be the person I am without the experiences I've had. So I wouldn't have learned what I've learned and so on and so forth. Now, but if I could go back and do it again, and I wasn't the kind that, doesn't look back, um, I would have tried to find a mentor, and they're so hard to find because there's so many fakes out there. I mean, 1 out of 100 are truly successful at what specific type of investing we do, and it's small multifamily, single family in Pittsburgh. So if you could find somebody, that's great. Someone you can trust, someone who doesn't have an ulterior motive or a financial interest in it, that would be amazing. Two, take it really slow initially. So get a couple under your belt, one under your belt, then two, then three. Make sure you have the reserves in place. Then as you get more experience, then you can really ramp it up. So take it a little slower. That's what I would have done, and trying to find somebody I could really rely on to bend their ear, and get some good advice.
So I think that kind of relates to Jim's question. He has contacted you through email. I've introduced you folks. So he's in California. He's a contractor, and he wants to get in. He's a new investor getting into the market, and he wants to do all value add BRRRR strategy. Do you have any kind of advice or thoughts? Maybe short answer for him.
Yeah, I love the idea. The added value BRRRR strategy is phenomenal because for a bunch of different reasons. One of the biggest reasons is you're eliminating a lot of the competition. So someone who lives out of state, doesn't have the construction knowledge, doesn't have the resources here, is not going to be looking at things that need work. So there, you've eliminated 50% of your competition. So that's a great thing. So the downside is you don't have the resources here. You don't understand the market here. You don't understand contractors here, and you don't have someone here who can manage it for you. So that's the downside. But it's not that they can't be managed remotely. They absolutely can. It's just some things get lost in the translation when you're not here physically managing those projects. But that's the way to go because there's usually more meat on the bone, but there's a lot more headache that comes with the added value type of investment.
All right. So the birthday boy Harrison has a question. Also, he says, "Are there areas in Pittsburgh that you do not invest in? Do you imagine the type of jobs your renters might have when buying a property?"
Yeah, I would buy in any market because I know the markets. So, for example, in a really bad area, I would buy something if I'm getting it at a super discount, and there's a good chance I'm not going to keep it. I'm going to buy it and sell it right away. Like I just bought a 3-unit in an area that it's actually a good area, but it's in an area I don't want to own property because it's too far. So I only bought it, I rehabbed it, fixed it up, got it rented, and then I'm selling it. And it's going to be a good investment for somebody else. But I'll buy it in a really bad area, but my exit strategy will be I'm going to buy it and sell it right away and make a small amount of money. I'm going to buy it and fix it up, rent it, get it revenuing for the new buyer, then sell it. But I'm probably not going to buy it and hold on to it unless I feel that an area is going to be gentrified. And then maybe I'll take a gamble. As we discussed earlier, you want to buy something based on current numbers, but I might buy something and take a chance that it's going to gentrify because maybe they're building a Walmart, or maybe they're building a Target, or maybe Whole Foods is coming in, or maybe they're opening up a new hospital. And then you roll the dice and see what happens. But for someone who's just coming here, I would stay away from the really bad areas. So you have to do your research and know what, an A area is and a D area is. D is like bad, high crime, low household income, that type of stuff. And stick with like the D plus, C minus, C plus, B minus. Finding properties in a B area and A area are very difficult because the demand is so high, not just from out-of-state investors, but local investors. They're hard to find, and they're in such high demand because of the school districts that the prices are usually so high that you're not going to make any money.
So, also a lot of times when I bring up the Pittsburgh market or people that are somewhat interested, I think the one thing that might hold them back or give them, reservations on is that the older homes, the older stock of homes, and like how do you help new investors navigate dealing with the older homes in Pittsburgh?
Another fantastic question. That's one I entertain a lot. Is like, what should I set aside for repairs and maintenance? So a good example I use all the time is I own a duplex that I bought in 1993. The duplex was built in the mid 80s. So it's for Pittsburgh, that's relatively new. That's like 50 years old. Um, this duplex has been phenomenal. I wish I owned 100 of them, but they are so expensive now. This place we bought for 95,000. My brother and I, since he's since liquidated and sold it to me, it's probably worth about 300,000 now. So that's 30 years later, worth over triple. It's been very little maintenance, no plumbing issues. Um, period. Okay, now let's fast forward into one that I bought recently. It's an older place. It's a duplex. It's going to need a ton of work, and I'm already budgeting for that. I got old plumbing, old roof. I have an old furnace. I have old electrical. It's not well insulated. So you just have to budget accordingly. So the older the house, depends. Like you could buy an older house that's been completely redone, but on generally speaking, an older house, sandstone foundation, some knob and tube, some old plumbing, you just have to budget more for repairs and expenses. And it's impossible to say, well, you budget 20% because the house is 100 years old, 15% when it's 50 years old. It's impossible because it depends on the condition of the house when you buy it. But just make sure you budget accordingly for the condition of the home and the age of the home.
Yeah, great answer. I think so. Steven, I don't think he's here, but he did message me in the school community. I think he's working right now, but he's from Canada. He's looking at some markets to invest in, and I guess in our Zoom call yesterday with Liam, he also heard the mention of knob and tube wiring. So he's kind of concerned. Like, oh, how do you navigate that? And I think to your point, right? My answer to him was kind of as long as you know about it now, right? You're aware of it, and you doing your inspections because a lot of times insurance companies or lenders are not going to deal with the knob and tube, or it's going to be a challenge. So it's going to have to be addressed anyways. So how do you like help people with the knob and tube situation as far as navigating through that also?
Yeah, I'm dealing with it right now. So with knob and tube, I have a building that I didn't know I had knob and tube. So when I answered the questionnaire from the insurance company, I said, "How old's the roof?" I said, "I don't know. About 20 years old. I don't know. I just bought it." "How old are the furnaces?" "I don't know. I'm guessing 20 years." "Is there any knob and tube?" "No." So I got an insurance quote. It's $700, give or take. Now I'm selling it, and they did a home inspection. They found some knob and tube. I found the furnace was 20 years old, and the roof, again, we still don't know how old it is. So when the new buyer fills out the insurance form, they say, "I don't know how old the furnace is," or "I know the furnace is about 20 years old. It's 22 years old. I don't know how old the roof is, and there is some knob and tube." So what we will do, and what I agreed to do, is I'm going to eliminate all the exposed knob and tube. Now, understand knob and tube is very old wiring. There's nothing wrong with it as long as it's in good condition, and as long as you have a breaker box instead of fuses, because fuses can be dangerous because people can get the wrong fuse in, a higher amperage, and now it's pulling all this. I don't know electricity, but it's bad if you put too big of a fuse in, because now you could run a toaster in a microwave and the fuse is supposed to break and it doesn't. And now your wiring's overheating and you could cause a fire. So what I'm doing in this particular instance, I'm eliminating any exposed knob and tube in the basement, but what's up in the walls is still going to be knob and tube. So you just have to be careful and make sure that the knob and tube is in decent condition and you have circuit breakers. Because if you're going to buy in Pittsburgh, Probably half the houses have not, but probably more than that. Probably more have in the market. Most investors are going to buy that's affordable. Um, Probably 70, 80% of the homes are going to have knob and tube. And out of those knob and tube homes, probably most of them still have knob and tube in the walls. So you're not going to get away from it totally. But just make sure what you can see is in good condition. What you can see, sometimes you should eliminate and just tie into the existing knob and tube, because if you don't and you want to rewire the whole house, you won't buy anything because it would cost you $10,000 to rewire a house. And make sure you have a good electrical box with the circuit breakers. So knob and tube is not a bad thing, but you just have to be careful on how to navigate around it. I've never had any lenders not lend because there was knob and tube. So maybe you guys run into that, but I never have. It's mainly insurance companies.
Liam says mentors are so important. I lucked up. Oh, I lucked up with Jeremy and everyone at Deacon Hoover, so I'd always do my best to pass it on. Yeah. So Liam also mentions the demand on the B class and better 2 to 4 units has been insane lately. Jim, the grumpy contractor says, what about C class areas? What are you seeing net cash flow in C areas average? Jim is looking at getting older homes, bringing back to life, down to stud, new systems, new everything basically.
Yes, C class, D class. I'll buy in a D neighborhood, but it has to be like, if I'm going to buy and hold, it has to be in a D plus. It has to be like really the bad areas right here. That's the D area, and then maybe surrounding it is a D plus, C minus. I'll tend to buy things in those areas, knowing the area, but you have to know the area really well. You just can't look at it online on Google. You have to kind of physically know the area street by street. So I love the idea about buying in a C area for sure. And I love the idea about buying something that needs gutted to the studs and doing it right the first time. Again, the challenge is it's so costly to do construction today. It's insane. Two, managing that project is extremely difficult. So that's the downside. You just have to, you have to know what you're doing, and it's really nice if you're here to manage that project.
So kind of Stephen and Jim's lumped into one question because on the knob and tube. So Alex did kind of touch on it, but Stevens was wondering about insurance companies and lenders not dealing with properties with knob and tube. And Jim said, yeah, he had insurance cancellations for knob and tube aluminum and Zinco plates. So it can be somewhat depending on probably who you're working with. So that's why it's always good to shop around and see. But the biggest thing, and I was telling Steven, it's just knowing that it is something in Pittsburgh, right? So knob and tube is out and doesn't catch you by surprise. And typically there is a way to navigate around it, like you're saying, right? As long as you know it's there, then now you can have solutions to the problem, right?
Mm-hmm. In my experience, I've never had an issue with a mortgage company, so that might be something new that I've never experienced with an issue. I've never had an insurance company cancel me either. But I've heard of it though. I've heard of it with some investors, but I've never had that happen.
Well, I think the lending side would be more. The lending would have an issue because they won't be able to get insurance. So it's not so much the lending company dealing with the knob; it's the insurance because they can't get insurance, and that now it's going to be difficult to find the lending side. Liam does say with insurance companies, you really just have to address any visible knob and tube. Most of the time in the basements. If you do that, shouldn't have insurance issues. Yep. So basically, back to what Alex mentioned, right? Whatever is visible, address it. Make sure it's in good working order and whatnot.
Well, the thing to mention too is like you're not trying to hide it, and you don't want an unsafe house. That's why I say if you're going to eliminate the exposed stuff, you should at least have an electrician look at the wiring going up in the walls and make sure it looks okay. You still don't know what's up in the walls. It could be chewed from a mouse or something. It could be rubbing against something. But make sure you also have circuit breakers. Like anytime I buy a house with with fuse boxes, the first thing I do is get those updated. So, I mean, average fuse box on the house is with a 100 amp service is going to be $1,500 to $2,000. That's a new service and a new box with the breakers in it. That's a real safety issue you should handle as soon as you purchase something with fuse boxes, which there's not too many around, but they're still around.
What's been your experience in, the market since you've been doing it for 30 years? Is there like a time of year where deals in Pittsburgh tend to pop up more, you think?
Yeah, if I had like a chart that showed where the best deals are, I would probably venture to say they're probably in the winter months because you have less people looking. Nobody wants to go out and look when it's 5 degrees below zero. The holidays, people take off. So you can find some good deals in the winter. Percentage wise, I don't know what that would be. It's not a super high percentage. I What I would suggest is when you're an investor, you're always looking. It doesn't matter doesn't matter the time of year, the interest rates doesn't matter. You're always looking because there's always a deal out there that if you're not looking, you're going to miss it. So you have to kind of be a little bit neurotic about it. Like you're always looking, and it just has to be like your day job, has to be like breathing, and the deals will come if you look hard enough.
Yeah, so I think to that point too, I think that's also why, I like the community reaching out to you and Jeremy folks because instead of me, I mean, I look at the market, but instead of me constantly having to search through things, you and Jeremy folks are always sending out deals that are making sense or things that are on the radar or even off market things through wholesalers and whatnot. So I think that also alleviates those that have a W-2 or have other obligations, right? So they're not having to search through the MLS daily, where you and Jeremy folks are sending out deals that make sense or deals that even maybe you would take advantage of if you didn't want to present to a client. But um let's see. Stephen has kind of a specific question on a market. Thoughts on the Duquesne Heights area? What class would this be? Am I saying it right?
What area?
uh Duquesne.
Oh,
D
Duquesne.
Yeah, Duquesne. Okay.
Really bad.
Quick and short answer. Okay.
Really bad. I mean, you can get deals over there for a very good price, but there's a reason.
Okay. That's probably why I don't know how to say it. um, Jim says, I'm also looking at the cost savings of management and upkeeping, doing a down to the stud rehab, less maintenance, and capex to worry about, lower insurance costs as well. So Jim does have a strategy, and he does have the contracting background. So I think that's very useful for him
Well,
also.
that's where you said know yourself and know your shortcomings and know your strengths, and yeah, so that's good for Jim. And back to Duquesne, I don't want to shit on Duquesne, but if you do buy in Duquesne, just know what you're buying and get it at the right price because you could probably make a heck of a lot of money in Duquesne if you're buying at the right price and you're managing it properly. You just have to understand that market. I choose not to buy over there because one, it's far, and two, it's just not a good area. It's high crime, low average household income, and it's a strong D area.
Let's see. Now, for me, I'm looking at it from the outside. So I always kind of mention to everyone that I feel Pittsburgh is still somewhat like an underrated market. Do you think Pittsburgh is still underrated, or has the secret gotten out, you think?
I think 15 years ago it was underrated. Right now, I have, and Jeremy and Liam probably can attest to this. You know, and we have management clients from all over the globe. I mean, just all over, from Venezuela to China to London, Australia. We have all of our clients are global. So I think that the secret is out of the bag, and that's why you have such a high demand, and it's hard to find a good deal now.
So like maybe I didn't say it correctly. So if you Alex, if you're able to see the chat side, Jeremy's trying to clarify maybe what area Steven was looking at. Is it Duquesne Heights? Mountain Washington is nice if that's what he's referring to.
Oh yeah, Duquesne Heights is the Mount Washington. Yeah, that's different. That's a completely different market. Duquesne, the borough of Duquesne, is the bad Duquesne.
Okay.
Yeah.
Jeremy says lower income areas can be tough for out-of-state investors relying on third-party property management. Yeah, I think that was the one also initial things. One of my friends who was investing, and he reached out to you also, Eric. But I think initially when he was first buying in Pittsburgh, he was buying lower income areas, which on paper cash flow really well.
Mhm.
But I think because like Jeremy's touching on, if you're using a third party property management, it's a little more challenging. So that's what I always tell people. I think if you're in the area or you're living there and you're going to self manage, it's going to be a little bit easier probably for you to navigate that. But if you're going to rely on someone else, yeah, definitely those lower income areas, it can be challenging. Buzz Tune is here. He finally woke up. So that's Mikey. That's Michael Honda tuning in. So Alex is working with him, and like Alex mentioned earlier, they're working on a triplex to close on. But Mikey says appreciate Mark introducing Alex, and Deacon Hoover has helped him stabilize, and have learned tremendous amount from you, Alex.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thank you. Mike's been a great client too. Been working with him for about 3 years now. Maybe not three. It's pretty close. So Mark, you you referred a lot of these clients to me, so I appreciate you. We met, I don't know, was maybe 3 or 4 years ago.
Yeah, like I said, I as soon as I kind of reached out to you, we chatted first, and I
And I
just felt
forget how
this.
you found me just online or something. I couldn't even remember who referred you, but that was I appreciate it because you've been a great asset, and I've been happy to help you too. I know because Mark you manage your own properties.
Yeah, so I call it hybrid because
Mm,
I'm kind of leveraging off of your resources also. So it's not
yeah,
strictly self-managing, but
right.
I do use your maintenance team and whatnot. So yeah, it's been a great help, and like you said, I think from the moment we chatted, I just felt like your struggles is kind of my journey also. So
Hmm.
that kind of related really well to that. So I think that's why we get along, and I think that's why I don't mind sending people your way to sit down with you and your team and people at Deacon Hoover. So you guys all been super helpful, and even Jeremy and Liam. So it's been great. I think it's a great kind of thing we're building here, and like I said, I don't mind sending a lot of people your way.
Well,
Um,
Jeremy and Liam, just to let you know, they are a great resource for helping investors find these deals. Um, and then we work closely with the two of them on the management side, and then we do the contracting for our clients. And Omar, who's not on the call, but he does a lot of contracting for Jeremy and Liam's clients, and sometimes for my clients too when we can't, overflow. So those are some good resources there for you guys to reach out to. And for me, just any consulting and advice, I'm happy to help.
let's see. Stephen asks, "Is buying near the steel mill ideal?"
I don't know where any steel mill. Only steel mill I know is the one in Homestead. Not really. It's the steel mills are not a real prevalent business here any longer.
Casey is here. Hey, good morning, Casey. He is I don't know. I keep forgetting. I don't know. I think he has 1.5 foot out the door of California. He's tired of it. He can't handle it anymore. He's getting out of there. I think he's moving to Vegas. But he is tired of the shenanigans going on in California already. So he's out of there. Um, Jeremy said, "Oh, actually, Buzz, I'm gonna get to, but BuzzTune did a super chat, so thanks, BuzzTune. So he says, Alex, who is your favorite drummer? We forgot to talk about that. Alex is a musician.
Favorite drummer? Oh, that would be Neil Peart from Rush, who passed away.
All right, yeah. So if people don't know Alex, I forget. Do you still have a band? Are you still playing a band or no?
I know I still play drums occasionally in my basement and drive my wife and daughter crazy. But
Jeremy said, "What are Alex's craziest property management
how
stories?"
much
Oh,
time do you got?
yeah, I know. That's what I'm gonna just say.
How much time do you got? We had literally like 4 deaths this year, overdose. We had one recently. I guess it's not funny, but it kind of is. But then the tenant below said, "Hey, there's something dripping from the ceiling, and it's on the fan, and it's splattering on the walls." Well, it was a dead body upstairs seeping into the floor. We've had fires. We've had a double murder, homicide. We've had just crazy, stupid stuff, and it endless. I could. You'd never want to buy real estate if I went on and on.
Oh, Jeremy has a request. He says Alex needs to play us a song on his guitar before the live is over.
Yeah, that's probably not happening.
Let's see, Liam. Yeah. I think property management. So, do you like the property management side or the real estate transaction side better?
You asked me the question before if I do all over again, would I start a management company? No, because management itself is super difficult. Oh, it's extremely difficult, especially today. Like you got service animals, you can't deny them. You can't turn down service animals. Um, Everybody is just helpless. They can't even fix us. They can't fix anything. So every little thing you're called on. So it's extremely difficult. But managing it and for other people, it takes it up a notch. So yeah, I would have focused on my sales because at the time I was selling. That was my primary income, and now it's just management and managing my own portfolio and continuing to add to it and this and that. So yeah, that's on the property management side. I would have not done management for sure because it's difficult.
So, as I mentioned earlier, Flavio, from who's in Grandview, Washington, who is looking to invest remotely, I think your management or stories just now scared him off because he just sent me a separate message on the side, like with eyes wide open. But
Yeah.
uh,
Was it the dead body thing? I should
yeah,
have left that out.
no, but because he's always concerned. I'm like, yeah, Pittsburgh is not. I don't know why he gets that idea, uh, but Steven asked, what would be the ideal amount of reserves considering Pittsburgh has older homes? Hmm.
Wow, that's a hard question to answer. Well, maybe if you're really conservative, maybe you don't buy anything unless if let's say it was sitting there vacant. Do you do you have enough reserves to pay that mortgage payment, all the utilities for 1 year, and $10,000 for any crazy repairs? Maybe that's a start. That would be really conservative. So if your mortgage payment's $1,200 a month, then do you have $14,000 sitting in your bank account, and do you have another 10? So you have to have $25,000 set aside just for that property, just in case absolute everything goes wrong. You have a $10,000 sewer line that goes bad, and everybody moves out. That would be a very conservative number.
Liam said, "Don't scare people away, Alex."
Trust me, that we have a portfolio that those weren't things we deal with every day. It just recently we had 4 deaths in like the past 4 months. One of them was the overdose, and that's the one that was dripping bodily fluids onto the ceiling fan and slinging it on the walls from the tenant below. But normally that's not every day.
So a lot of people also in the community are interested in Section 8. So what's your experience dealing with Section 8 tenants and that program? Because I think a lot of times we hear it's really maybe by the city. It depends on where the program is, right? And you have different people running it, so that's a big thing. So what's been your experience with Section 8?
Well, this is what is really important. I wrote this down to build a team, right? Build a team around you, like a good mentor, good salespeople, good management, good contractor. That team is really important. Now, the reason I say that is because if you ask just me on Section 8, I don't really like Section 8. If you ask other people, they love Section 8. I know a person that owns 100 units Section 8, but it's a different management style. It's difficult to deal with a government agency that doesn't respond, and you have to email them 10 times and yada, yada, yada. It's a lot of red tape. So, but the return can be pretty good because Section 8 rents right now are kind of high. Now, with that being said, Allegheny County, there's city Section 8, which is Pittsburgh, city of Pittsburgh, and then there's Allegheny County Section 8, which is separate. That's everything other than Pittsburgh. Allegheny County just sent their rents have gone way up, just ridiculous. Like, how can you pay that much money? That's not market rent. That's way above market rent. But that's our government spending our money, and it is what it is. You're going to take advantage of it as a landlord. Well, the county just sent out a letter, and they stated that, hey, we're like out of money, so we're not going to be. This was about 4 months ago. We're not going to be increasing our rents. In fact, the rents may come down, and so that scares me a little bit about Section 8. So Section 8 is good and bad. The bad part is it's a lot of red tape. You have inspections. You're dealing with tenants who just feel like they're owed something, and that's just being honest. Like, I live on Section 8. My Section 8's paid. A lot of them feel that they're owed that for some reason. And so you have a different mentality. But on the flip side of that, the ROI can be greater, but it's a completely different management style, and you have to understand what you're getting into. So personally, I don't like it. I don't buy many Section 8 properties. So we manage 900 units. I would say we probably manage about 70 that are Section 8. Ballpark.
Have you seen like a big change in maybe type of tenants in the past, few decades now that you've been managing properties, as far as how it's been dealing with tenants?
Yeah, it's just going to be more difficult because the mentality of that, owed something it's just a different mentality. I'm sure it's just not. It has nothing to do with being a landlord. It's just the mentality of the United States. I think in general, is people think they're owed something, and like when a tenant calls me and says, I don't have any electric. Well, like we had a storm come through here about 2 or 3 weeks ago, and some people didn't have, like 30% of the community didn't have electric for a few days or something like that. So tenant calls and said, "What are you going to do for me?" I was like, "I'm not going to do a goddamn thing for you, because if my electric goes out, guess what? I lose all my food, or I run to the store and I buy some coolers and I buy some ice. So figure it out." Like, that's the kind of stuff you have to deal with. Like, use your brain. I mean, what do you want me to do about it? You want me to fix your electric? Nobody has electric. So it's just things like that. And you just have to be ready for it, and include management in your equation, like repairs, management, and then you throw a BS factor or a bullshit factor. And if it all makes sense after that and you can make money, then buy it. If it doesn't, then don't buy it. But it's a challenge, and if it wasn't hard, then everybody would do it.
Yeah, I think Jeremy says that's why seems like more people are interested in Section 8 lately now, because the cash flow has been drying up a bit in a lot of areas. So maybe that's why people are dabbling more in the Section 8 space. I think another question I always get is, how do winters and older homes affect maintenance or vacancy in Pittsburgh?
How do they affect vacancy? Well, one thing we do to try to eliminate that is we really try not to renew leases in the winter. So, for example, I just talked to an owner today. If a lease ended, let's say we have a vacancy, tenant moves out or they get evicted, and your unit's ready to be rented, and we rent it out for January 1st. What we really try to do is negotiate with the new tenant that we're going to sign a 15-month lease. So their lease is not going to end until March or April of 2026. So this way, when their lease ends, it's a warmer time of year. They're paying the utilities throughout the winter. You're not sitting with a vacancy, and it's going to be easier to rent something in the spring and summer and early fall months, because that's when most people are moving. They don't want to move when it's really cold. So that little tweak there can help tremendously keep your costs down for utilities and potential frozen pipes. Because remember, when a tenant moves out, then they get the utilities switched over. Did the owner get them switched back into their name? Did we winterize the property? You have to be concerned about that. So during winter months, we're on high alert. Anybody who's not paying rent, anybody whose lease is coming up, anybody you haven't heard from in a while, our radar goes up like, okay, did that tenant just skip town? Did, what's going on? So yeah, just be real careful in the winter months to be on high alert on any of those indicators that would say the tenant's gone or the tenant, had vacated without telling you.
Steven says, hey Alex, what are some C plus B class areas that I can do some research on?
B and C plus?
Yeah.
Well, it's what I'm going to say might be different than what Jeremy or Liam or another investor would say, but I'll just pick some areas like Carnegie is where my office is. Heidelberg, these are all B. Carnegie, Heidelberg, but then again, so in Carnegie there's some C plus. So so I'm just going to round up. I'm going to round up on all these. So Carnegie's B, Heidelberg's B. Sheridan, which is part of the city of Pittsburgh, is I think C, but it depends where in Sheridan. Yeah, see, it's weird because Pittsburgh, you have Pittsburgh, but then every area has like these little areas. They have a name, like Sheridan, Elliott, West End, Squirrel Hill, Shady Side, yada yada yada. Right? Shady Side's like the Beverly Hills of Pittsburgh, and then Elliott's kind of the slum sort of area of Pittsburgh, which it's not terrible. There's good parts of Elliott. That's what I'm saying. You can't. So if that makes any sense. So when I say Sheridan, that's actually the city of Pittsburgh, but Sheridan's a good part of the city of Pittsburgh. Elliott's not bad. That's a strong C minus. The West End, there's not much population down there. So, I mean, there's probably 100 areas, and I'd have to. If somebody's interested, they could just email me, and you can give them my email information, and I could put together a list. And then a good resource would be Liam and Jeremy on that, and get their opinion on the areas and their classifications.
Yeah, I think that's too. I think Jeremy touches on a little bit further down, but he says, yeah, lots of neighborhoods have subsections within them that can be different letter grades, right? Like upper street Sheridan. So it is definitely street by street, block by block. So I think that's the one thing. You always, like you said, reach out to you, Jeremy, Liam, and you can kind of break it down a little bit better instead of, a live's a little bit hard to cover, like you're saying, like, the street by street kind of thing. But definitely reach out to you folks. Steven also says, what are the coldest months in Pittsburgh? Is there like a...
Yeah, the coldest months would be, generally speaking, January and February.
I don't know, but you told me it's like 50 degrees right now.
It's 50 degrees. Yeah. Pittsburgh is a weird place, but yeah, generally speaking, on average, January and February, yeah, the coldest. See, last year it was late. Was it last year? The year before, man, we had a cold snap on December 23rd or 24th. Man, it was a nightmare because nobody's working, and we got people that frozen pipes left and right. So it was a struggle. That was the worst I remember in a long time, only because not because of the coldness, but when it happened. It was right at like Christmas Eve. It was the worst time for it to happen.
I think, to that, before we move on to the next question, but to that point too, like, for people that are investing remotely or out of state or using a property manager and whatnot, they also have to remember too that there's other people like you're going through this same situation. So even though, your unit may have frozen pipes and you of course it's a emergency or a problem, but you want it to be handled, but at the same time, you guys have all these resources out trying to handle all these other situations too. So it's you also have to keep that in mind and keep things in perspective that everyone is kind of going through the same situation at the same time. So that's just something, people have to navigate after a period of time. Mikey, BuzzTunes says, how would you recommend an out-of-state investor visiting for the first time set up their time to get the most value?
I would do a lot of homework prior to, because I don't want to, you can't cover the whole area. So do a lot of homework prior to, do your research, pick a handful of areas that you've come up with in your research that you want to focus on. And then I would probably get in my car and drive around some of these areas. And sometimes you can really see an area's true colors when you drive by in the summertime in the evening. And you see all the shit that's going on. You don't see it in the winter. Nobody's outside, but in the summer, in the evenings, you can see what's happening, and sometimes you can come up with your own conclusion on if you want to buy in that area or not.
Yeah, that's another little trick that our kind of community talks about too. Is even like looking at a property, like the street parking situation,
Mhm.
is try to get someone to drive by during that end of work period of time, or peak,
Such a
traffic time, to see how the street actually is when everyone is off of work, and what kind of parking is
super
available.
good point, Mark. So, for example, if you could have one street up, like if we want Washington, perfect example. On Grandview Avenue, you have $1 million condos up there and $1 million view. It looks at the three rivers. 4 or 5 streets down, you could be on some side street. It can be rougher if it's on the shooting towards the Beltsuver side down the hill. This is all city of Pittsburgh. Different market altogether. And then throw in the mix where you have no parking on that specific street. It just blows your whole like assessment out of the water. Like you have, that's how you really have to know the streets. And then coming here as an investor, driving by these areas and really getting to know them. What's really helpful is Google Street View. Like you can literally walk and drive through the areas. But that's a great point, and it's a great point from one of the listeners that, how do you know if you want to buy in that area or not?
Yeah, so I think Mikey also wanted to know, like, where is the good places to eat when he comes to Pittsburgh, and where to have some drinks or where to hang out. So Mikey is a
I
secret
can,
party
I
guy.
can tell you what the good place not to eat is my house, because my wife, she can't cook at all. She's just in the office next door. She would agree. You know what she likes to make? Reservations.
Ah,
That she likes to make. I'm not a good person to ask for like where to eat because I don't eat out much. I would like Morton's, right? I like their steak. I mean, that's a really high end place, but
so
Permane
wait, so
Brothers,
if she doesn't cook and you don't
right?
eat out, what do you do?
We She cooks when she needs to cook.
Oh, okay.
That's all. We'll leave it at that.
Let's see. Yeah, Liam and Jeremy, like I said, they're great resources. They're kind of talking about how it is kind of hard to get a breakdown of the neighborhoods. It definitely is a lot of nuances to them, street by street, block by block. Oh, and we do know some other people that are investing in the area, so they are in Pittsburgh. And we always hear about, was it Primanti's, and some of them
Yeah,
say it's overrated. So
yeah.
what?
Permane's is probably over. Permane's used to be when I was a kid. And this is before I was a kid. Permane's been downtown. It used to be in an area called the Strip District, and this is where, like, back in the 50s and whatever, they would sell like fruit and vegetables. Because my dad used to be what's called a huckster. So huckster would go down there. This is before I was born. Take his truck, he'd go buy all the groceries, he'd buy cherries and strawberries and lettuce and yada yada. Then he'd drive through all these communities, which he drove through every day, and he'd sell the fruit and stuff like that. That's how they didn't have grocery stores, more or less. So that's where it was located, Permane Brothers, and the food there was just a hole in the wall. It was fantastic. They have this Permane Brothers sandwich that's their staple, what they're known for. Now they have, I don't know, maybe 10 locations. It's not the same. It's still good. They have a good sandwich. It's different because it has coleslaw and French fries on it, but it's worth trying. You either like it or you don't. I like it, but it used to be a lot better, back in the day.
Yeah, see, so we got a thumbs down from Liam.
Uh-huh.
Jeremy says he's a Permanis fan. Gotta go to the one on the strip to get the true experience.
Okay, well that's it. That's the one you have to go to. That's the original one. And we used to go there when I was a kid. We'd get, all drunk and stupid, and that's where you end up at 3 in the morning.
You see, you hit Mikey. Mikey's that's perfect. That drunken stupid part that sold him probably. So he'll probably be there. Steven does have another question. He says, being out of state, can I trust the Google Street View test to identify the class of the neighborhood?
It's helpful. It's helpful based on your research that you can do online and the Google Street View. Nothing's better than talking to an experienced person who knows the market and being there yourself. That's the best way. Sometimes it's not possible, but that's the best way to assess.
Jeremy said Liam grew up in Buffalo. You can't trust him on it. Yeah, see, I think, and to Steven, I think that's why I know you're still trying to get more information. But I think that's why it would be great to reach out to Alex or Jeremy or Liam and kind of pick their brains. And, because you have other people in the school community investing in Pittsburgh, you have a bunch of resources to kind of help you navigate, not make the mistakes that I've made, Mikey's made. Alex talks about the mistakes that he's made. I don't know. Maybe Jeremy just hit the ground running, but
Jeremy is way smarter than me. He did everything the right way. I had to do it the hard way. So yeah, Jeremy's a good resource also. I learned through trial and error. That's just the way I roll.
See, and I think that's why I told you from before, when we first chatted, I think that's why I felt there was this connection there.
Yeah. Because I could tell you did the same. You really invested through emotion and you wanted to succeed, but that success and that emotion can cloud your vision, your cerebral vision, and to get you in trouble. But that's how you learn too. And you've done well. If you could do it over again, you probably would have slowed down and maybe just be a little more cautious. But that's who you are. At least you did something. Doing nothing.
Well, yeah, exactly to that point.
Doing something.
Yeah.
Anybody can sit on the sidelines and do nothing. So.
BuzzTune says, Mikey says, want to visit Sheets too. And then Jeremy says, GetGo is better than Sheets.
I go with Sheets. I'm going to go with Sheets. Sheets is a monster. They
are
an help everywhere.
So what is that? What kind of?
It's just a gas station with a big convenience store.
Oh, like Buc-ee's.
Yeah, well, Buc-ee's is on steroids, but I've never been to a Buc-ee's. I want to go, but that's the destination. Buc-ee's is the destination. Sheets is just.
I just went.
Did you?
Yeah, when I was in. So I was in North Carolina. So when I was out on workers' comp while I was waiting, I went to North Carolina. And then I went to Georgia. And then as I was when I was coming back to North Carolina, one of the school community guys goes, "Hey, you go through South Carolina and go to the Buc-ee's over there." And I probably spent like $300 at Buc-ee's. I have like a coffee mug. I have like hats.
I've never been there. My daughter has, and my other daughter has. They have like 100 gas pumps. That's the difference.
Oh, yeah.
Buc-ee's has 100 gas pumps. So it's not your average gas station rest stop.
No,
it's a destination where Sheets might have, 15 or 10 gas pumps, and it's just a small convenience store, just like a Wawa or it's one of those. But it's just Sheets is very clean and they have a nice operation.
Steven has a great question. I don't know. So he says, can I reach out to all three of you? So you, Jeremy, and Liam, or is that too excessive?
No, you can always. My email is alex@alexdeacon.com. If you can share that somewhere. And you can reach out to me anytime. It just, when I get really busy, I might not get to it quickly, but I really try to get to every email. Like, I'm an email Nazi. I am on it like white on rice. So I try to do my best to respond to every email.
Yeah. And I don't know, Steven, I'm not sure if I sent it to you, but so a lot of times I try to help Alex out. I try to send out this questionnaire also to whoever ahead of time, so that once you reach out to Alex, you kind of have some questions answered for him, but it makes it a little bit easier. Oh, Andy's here. He's in Ohio, so thanks for stopping by, Andy. Let's see. Yep, Liam says, yeah, that's fine. Reach out. BuzzTune says, yeah, go definitely visiting. Um, so Flavio has this, like I said, you might have scared him a little bit, but Flavio's a troublemaker. He's a jokester, but he wants to know if what kind of vest do you use when you go to collect rent? Oh, look, the sirens, right when we say that, there's sirens going off.
Here they come. I've been in some really scary houses, man. I've been in some really scary houses. I don't wear a vest, and I don't pack. I have a gun
See,
in my car, but I usually don't take it in with me. I'm pretty numb to it. Nothing scares me anymore.
see, Flavio, you got nothing to worry about.
Yeah.
Yeah, Mikey says yes. Deacon Hoover is elite communication. So, yeah, Stephen, like I said, if you need their information, message me and I'll get it to you in the school community, and you can reach out to them and pick their brains. But also go to Alex's YouTube channel and subscribe. I'll put it back in the chat when Jeremy says Deacon is the head honcho around these parts. That's why I refer to him as he's like I always tell him you are Yoda. Like to me, you are like that veteran, wise, you've been doing it for a long time. Jeremy's kind of like that prima donna, that rock star guy. He's kind of the new kid on the block, but Jeremy's my Yoda, I tell everyone. Yeah, I think Andy's saying perfect timing for that question with the sirens in the background.
It's good, very good timing.
Well, I know you have a busy day, Alex, so I know your time is running limited. So thanks for doing this. Hopefully you enjoyed yourself. Hopefully we can do this again. Hopefully Omar can jump on next time, or we can get maybe another contractor that you work with also that may want to come on and answer some questions, or maybe we can have you, Jeremy, and Liam on at one time and battle it out.
I'm glad to help whenever you need me. This hour it's fun for me too. It breaks up the monotony of my day, and I'm glad to help. And I appreciate all your time, and you're doing a great job. I mean, you do a great job with the social media and networking. It's not something I'm good at. That's why you don't see me out there as much, because I really don't need it. I don't want to really expand too quickly. And I just rely on personal referrals and people like you, and then Liam and Jeremy, who sell a lot. They refer their clients. But I'm always happy to add value. So reach out anytime. Thank you.
Yeah. All right. Thanks for doing this, Alex. Have a great weekend, and everyone, thanks for tuning in.
All right. Thanks, Mark.
Okay. Bye.